Hello everybody, I'm Ard, and welcome to another episode of Minecraft Enigmatica 2 Expert. You might have noticed that I have a new little friend sitting on my shoulder here. I found a little hedgehog while I was out doing a little exploring to gather some more materials and just take a look around the map a little bit more. And I'll try to take a little better care of this one than I did the hamster. The one that I haven't been feeding. Oh well. So, I figured this episode we'd probably should go make some progress on Industrialcraft. And I was going to move us forward to at least get to the point where we are making metal plates, because that's one of the big blockers for making anything else in this pack right now. And I figured we get moving through a couple of the steps of that. And then I figured we go clean up the situation of that ender pearl over there in the corner, get that on some endstone. There's an easy way to produce that as long as we have glowstone, which thanks to that yellow plant right there, we do. And then I figured we would go start on a little farm to justify building a kitchen in the next episode and solve my food problem. At least, some of it won't be automated, but at least we'll have a farm. So, with that said, let's go take a look at some of the changes I made in between the episodes. So, I haven't forgotten my to-do list here, guys. To be completely honest, I haven't. In this box, I gathered a whole lot more wood in between to get us ready to build the second story of the building. I'm just not going to do that today. But wasn't completely lazy. I did go get materials, so there is that. And I got, a little hedgehog. I found my little hamster buddy a new friend. There's that little yellow guy in there. And I got some chickens, so it would have feathers and eggs. While working on the Industrialcraft stuff in the basement, I built a couple different sound mufflers to try to block out the machine noises because they were really loud. But in this one, I'm instead using for chickens because I forgot something really basic, really basic, and not obvious at all. You can't muffle the Industrialcraft machines with a device like this. It is sitting over here in the options, in music and sounds, and it's literally a slider right there. Right here. So that took me longer than I want to admit, but there we are. Some of the things I did during the breakdown here, first of all, I made a morphing tool. What's a morphing tool? And the morphing tool is basically a multi-tool that you can shove other tools into, and it will use them contextually. So you see how it's it just changed to the Industrialcraft wrench right there when I moused over that, but it becomes the little multicolored blob thing again. That's pretty much how it works. You just craft this wrench with the other tool and it just becomes a single tool. So it's useful for that purpose. That's pretty good. The other thing I did was I shoved the machines into the wall here, and I dug out a little tunnel for cabling. I'll probably hide it better than with a door later. But back here is sitting the bat box, the transformer for it, and then the cabling. There'll be more cabling. I'll probably move the bat box later. I eventually want to have this exposed because I need to be able to access this to recharge tools. So we'll get around to that at some point, or maybe I'll turn that into a charge pad and expose that through the floor, out in front, right here. But that's not on the slate for today. Also gathered a bunch of lava. We'll need some of that for the endstone, so I'm just going to grab that right now. Boop. So now I guess we can get started on the Industrialcraft stuff. So as you can see from my inventory, I actually prepped a bunch of stuff this time, so we won't run into the problem where I don't have copper made. We'll probably find something else new and embarrassing, as has been the trend lately. But let's go take a quick look at the book so we can see what we're supposed to be doing. So we can come into here, you can see there's basically a line of machines that comes down to here, down to the metal former. The metal former right here is the one that we want to make. That's the one that can basically make metal plates and extrude metal wires, which will make making all of the other machines a lot easier. We'll worry about expanded power a little bit later. Because the next one to make is the geothermal generator, which we're going to want a source of lava for, which means I'm going to want to have access to the nether, so I'll have to worry about making the portal for that in a bit, but not right now. So to start with this, we need to make an extractor, and the extractor is pretty simple. Its main use is to convert resin into rubber in a 3-to-1 instead of a 1-to-1, which is why I haven't converted this. So the recipe for that is actually pretty simple. So we go to the extractor. It's just 4 tree taps, one of these circuits that we made last time, and one of these machine casings that we made previously. And since I've got this in my inventory, we can just come right over here, hit the button, and make the extractor. So easy peasy, done and done. So now we'll come into here, accept this one, claim, and we've got a loot box. The next step is to make the compressor. The compressor is a bit of a weird one. It doesn't have a humongous amount of uses for us right now. If we come in here, you can take a look at the sorts of things that it can make. It basically is for, the main thing we're going to be using for is the dense plates, but mostly for turning things back into blocks. and other things like that. This is the other big one, is the carbon plate. Those are the main two things we're going to be using it for quite a while. But other than that, it's not hugely useful to us right now. So the recipe for that is also pretty simple. It's mostly just some stone, some actual stone, not cobblestone, a machine casing, and another electronic circuit, which we have from mining and from everything else we need to do. So just click this and make the compressor. Done and done. Another step finished. Go to the book, close out the compressor, and that is done as well. Then after that, it's an electric furnace. So the electric furnace is basically just one of these, except instead of using coal, it just uses electricity. So that's also fairly simple. It mostly just uses an iron furnace, some redstone, and another circuit. So all pretty easy so far. All stuff we've seen before, no real surprises. So we'll make that real fast as well. So here's where things get a little bit more complicated and where things start getting a little weird. So we come in here, and this is the metal former. This is where we start needing like coils of copper and toolboxes. The copper coil in theory isn't that hard to make. It's mostly just a lot of copper. Each one of these coils is 8 copper wires, which is 4 copper plates, which is 8 copper ingots. So this costs 24 copper to make as a whole. Already made it, but you know, it's quite a bit of an investment. And then the toolbox requires a bunch of bronze casings, similar sort of deal. So in a couple of chests, which thankfully we have a ton of right now. So let's go slap that together, and I can show you what all of these do. And then we'll go get the loot box. Okay, so as you can see, I just punched a hole in the wall because this is where I'm going to put all the machines. I actually want a gap here eventually because I'm going to want to move the macerator up here and feed it down into the furnace directly. I might do it with a wooden hopper right now to make it easier, but let's add some cabling in and let's slap the machines down. So let's put the furnace at the bottom, let's put the macerator at the top, and then let's put the extractor up here, and then the compressor, and then the metal former. And I guess we'll put the wood wall back in for the time being. So now all of these should have power. Yep. Okay. So to show you what the extractor does, first of all, we'll slap the sticky resin in here, and you can see that this starts processing pretty slowly. And once it finishes, it kicks out 3 rubber instead of 1. So this will save us a bunch of time and a bunch of having to go out to the rubber trees themselves. The other thing this allows you to do is it will let you turn rubber saplings or rubber logs directly into rubber for 1-to-1, which will help if we make a rubber tree farm at some point. Now, the compressor I showed you, this is mostly for making dense plates. We're not going to use this right now, but we will have to soon. And then the metal former, it has 3 modes. It has extruding to make wires. We can put an ingot here and we'll end up with wires, and it becomes cheaper to do it that way than it did on the other one. We can turn it to rolling, which makes plates and it makes the various types of plates that we need. So the casings for these, or for the bronze plates, so it can make both of these much cheaper. This was a 1-to-1 recipe. It's a 2-to-1 here, and it becomes a 1-to-1 here. So that will save us a lot of time and effort. It's one of the things I've been waiting on to be able to do any of this. So this actually gets us a fair chunk of the way into Industrialcraft and lets us move into other things in a much cheaper fashion. Our next step is probably to go into immersive engineering and start building the coke furnaces, but we will have to evaluate that in the next episode. Let's open up the loot boxes and see what we got real fast, just to see if we got anything interesting worth talking about. So a Coca-Cola door, which if it's not all that great. An origin sapling, which is an interesting looking tree, but not all that useful. Liquid fuel tanks for advanced rocketry later, and a Tesla coil, which would be defenses. So we don't need any of these. Nothing too exciting there. So I suppose we should go fix the Ender Lily now. So as I said, there's actually an easy way to make Endstone. It's actually using the Ex Nihlio mod, using the stone barrel. The trick is, to make the stone barrel, we need obsidian. To make obsidian, well, that hasn't changed at all. So we just dig a hole here. We're going to, let's put the tank there. Let's toss a bucket of lava in there. Let's grab some water, bucket of water on top of it, and pop out the obsidian. This takes 15 years, however, because it's still obsidian. And now that we've got our obsidian, we can go make our barrel real fast. So just slap that in there, slap some stone in, and we have a stone barrel. All easy peasy so far. So let's slap the barrel down and show you how this works. So you do that. Let's see, let's put the lava back down because I need that. And let's grab a bucket of it and chuck it in the barrel. And we take our glowstone and just chuck that in there, and we have Endstone, and we can just take it right back out. And do another one, just because why not? And 2 Endstone. So that makes this really easy. What we can do right now, however, is actually turn this into an obsidian generator to make getting more obsidian in the future easier. So what I'm going to do here is one of the things I just like doing for aesthetic reasons. This is what I was talking about with chisel and bits, where you could saw the planes down to a single block width. We can slap all of these on here around it. It'll act like they're completely surrounded by a block. So if I get it facing the right way, we can slap 4 of these around here. They are, however, a pain to place. And there we go. So do that, and then put my axe back on. And then knock that out. And then go toss a bucket of water in there. Now the trick here is that I need to go actually make hardened fluid ducts, which now that we've got the metal former, we can actually do reasonably. They would have been super expensive before. We can actually automate a lot of more things now. So you put the water in the top like that, and then you just grab your lava and put it in the bucket. Why we want to use a fluid duct is so we can just auto pump lava into this, and then we just have to right click to take obsidian out, or put an item duct or something on to extract them out. And it works extremely well. It just produces obsidian basically as fast as you can pump lava through it. It'll become a lot easier once we can just pump lava directly from the nether, which we will do in the near future for power for no other reason. So let's go make a hardened fluid duct. So to make the hardened fluid duct, we need to do the XNet part that I said it was complicated. So we need to make a blue network cable. So we need 4 lapis plates, which are pretty simple. We can just toss that into the compressor to make the plates. This is actually one of the other uses, although we don't use it a ton. And then we can toss 1 gold into the metal former to make the other part. So let's grab the pieces we need. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we'll make that into an ingot real fast. I got all that gold from the dragon sword, by the way. You can they have piles of gold that you can turn straight into nuggets, as long as they aren't nearby and see you doing it. Because if they see you doing it, they will come and murder you super fast. So to make the lapis lazuli plates, we don't put it in directly into the compressor. We have to put it in the macerator first to crush it down to dust, which then we take the dust and put it in the compressor to turn into plates. Now that we've made our 2 sets of plates, the next thing we need to do is make some invar, which is actually pretty easy. It's literally just a 1-for-1 nickel plus iron alloy. So I started grinding up some of the nickel right now, and we just need to toss it into the smeltery where I already have a bunch of iron made. And just wait for that to melt down, and it will form the invar alloy. And then we can just dump out a couple blocks of it, and we'll have all we need to do to make pipes with for a while. And just like that, it's finished, and now you can see this top layer of molten invar. So let's dump that out of the smeltery, and we can use that to get started on our ducts. And I can show you how to do the obsidian generator. So now we've got the invar made, so now we can just go ahead and make the XNet network cable real fast. And then we have all the pieces, which makes a ton of them, thankfully, because we need to use them in all of the ducts as well as the XNet stuff itself. And then we can make a hardened fluid duct finally. Okay, now that I actually have the invar plates made, let's do this for real. There we go. So now I have some hardened fluid ducts. So let's go back upstairs. Let's go toss the sign to this. I'll probably move this somewhere else at some point, but this is just to get it going. Toss that on there. Realize I put the fluid tank 1 block too far away. Put this in here, and then toss the servo on it. Turn the servo on. So when it's dark like this, it's turned off. It requires a redstone signal. You come to this, and you just hit ignore to turn it on. And now you can see it's constantly pumping out obsidian. So we just come in here and just right click it, just keep going until it basically empties our lava tank. Eventually we'll replace this with a pump in the nether and a pair of ender tanks, once I can afford to make them, to just constantly pump lava into here and into probably a lava anvil to constantly repair things. But this is how we're going to make the lava for our initial end portal, which actually we just did. Yeah, we just did right here, so we have enough to do that now. But we can also use this to make, you know, as much obsidian as we want in the future, and or more endstone if we need it. So before I forget, let's go plant that endstone. Let's go grab the ender lily, because it grows 4 times faster on endstone than it does on dirt. In the time that I've been recording and doing all this, I've harvested a single ender pearl. So we want more of those. We want this to be more reliable. So let's just put it here for right now, and hopefully we get another seed soon. They do self-propagate over time. It's a relatively low % chance it creates a new one when it becomes harvestable. We could just go mow down a whole bunch of plants looking for seeds again, but I'm kind of lazy, let's be honest here. That's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm more willing to just let it self-propagate into more seeds. And then next we should probably go work on a farm. I lied. We're not going to do the farms right now. I just remembered something that's super important about Industrialcraft that I forgot. That's going to make this a lot easier to work with, because I don't actually need ducts yet for this, although I can build them. There's actually a way to make this a super compact layout. So one of the things that's included are these upgrades that you can put into your machine. It's called pulling and ejecting, and they do exactly what you think they do. It lets you push them out of a side into a nearby inventory, or pull from a nearby inventory. You can just right-click them on the side to do it. They're actually pretty easy to make. The pulling one is 4 tin plates and a sticky piston, which thankfully we have some slime balls. And the ejector is 4 tin plates and a normal piston. So we're going to make one of each of these. We're going to move this down. We're going to put a crate above it. We're going to have it pull from the crate and eject into the furnace, and we're going to have the furnace eject into another crate on this side. So let me go make the plates real fast for this, and let's get this relayed back out. Okay, now that I've got the upgrades made, let's go tear all this out, and I can show you how I'm going to lay it back out. So let's get this out of here. That's the wrong tool. There we go. And that. And that. So the first thing we need to put back in is the macerator, because we need to put the pulling upgrade on top like that, and then click on there, shift right click to get it to do, so it says automatically input from the top side, and then we just put that in there. And then now we need to rip the bottom of this out, because I need to be able to see the bottom of this. Same thing there. Now it's automatically output on the bottom side. We can toss that in there. Thankfully, the climbing glove is pretty amazing, guys. This has been my MVP for building in this base so far, is that, because it lets me climb out of holes or climb up walls to build like the upper parts of the walls there. It's been pretty great. So let's put the wooden storage crate up top, and then now we need to rip this out and put the electric furnace in and put the last ejector upgrade. So same thing here, eject to that. There we go. And then put it in. And then we can put the last crate down. Now I went and grabbed a bunch of ore, and we can toss it all up in this crate, and you'll see that it automatically pulled the first one down into the macerator. There, it's got the first 2 in there. The rest are in, and it's processing. And when this finishes processing, it immediately grabbed it and threw it down into the furnace. So this is processing and eating that, which then processed it and tossed it into this crate. This lets me store a whole bunch of raw materials up in this wooden storage crate to process in the macerator over time and just dump into this crate long term. And this will let me get all my finished products for a huge batch of stuff. So this will be a big time saver. Now, let's go build the farm. The first thing we need to do to get started on the farm is build a couple of tools, though. And we're going to start with the Tinker's Construct-Matic, which is basically a multi-tool that is a shovel, an axe, and a hoe combined. It also makes a decent starter weapon. It has a decent amount of damage to start with if you just want to use a single tool. All it takes to make it is an axe head, a shovel, and a tool rod. I'm just going to make it out of iron to start with, so let me go process that and get started on this. Now that we've got the pieces, we can just put it into the tool bench and we will have our iron matic. The next thing we're going to make is the Cyclic sprinkler, which basically acts as a constant source of fertilizer. It's made out of basically bone blocks, some water, and some iron grates. The only hard part are the bone blocks. In Enigmatica, however, one of the things you can find in the world are these giant skeletons that just have a whole lot of bone blocks built into it, and I've already got a bunch of them stored up and saved. So I have a bunch of those just ready to go, as well as a bunch of bone meal, which makes fertilizing stuff pretty easily at this point. So let's just go ahead and make that, and then we can hopefully move on to the farm. Alright, now that we have everything built, let's just go over here, remove the old apiary, and let's put the sprinkler down where it used to be, because we want this kind of to be the center of where the new farm is. We just need to then throw some water under it, which means you just need to move the blocks that are rounded out, and throw the water down. Once you see we do that, you see that it starts spinning around like that, which means it's now fertilizing all of the areas around it. After that, you just do all the standard farm stuff. So we want to make a 7x7 block area for the farm. Just hoe all the land out as normal. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put down 2 rustic apiaries. So there's some debate as to how these actually work. Some say they go one up and one down, but I don't actually know if that affects the crops that are growing in the farm right here. Some people say you can stack it on top of the sprinkler. I just put them on the edges just in case, because it's not like these are expensive to make and they self-propagate pretty easily. So I just don't worry about it, I just make more. And like I said, I think we can use the honey for fuel later, so having more of them doesn't hurt. So we just put some bees in there, some bees in here, and finish out the farm, and then we can put some seeds down. Now, the bulk of this farm is going to be wheat and jute, and we're doing the jute because that lets us get string, which is easier than trying to farm spiders for it at this point in the game. Oops. So let's toss some seeds in here. There's the seeds, and there's the, or not jute, we're doing flax, I'm sorry. Flax and jute do the same thing. I've only got one of those seeds for right now, so we're going to have to let that grow up, and then we can spread that to other ones pretty easily. And then we're just going to put a mishmash of a bunch of other stuff down. So some potatoes and some carrots and some onions and some beans and just a bunch of other plants from Pam's Harvest Craft, just because we want variety later, or making a whole bunch of different recipes. We'll get into more of that when we make the kitchen though. But I don't really need a ton of stuff. I don't need a ton of one thing more than I need just a massive variety of things to make a bunch of different dishes later. So that's pretty much how this works in this pack. So we'll come back out here and we'll fill out the rest of this later though. So we made some good progress here today, folks, but that's about all the time we have for this episode. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.